The Todd Shapiro Show. Canada Laughs, SiriusXM 168.
Boveda.com has been working with us now for a very long time. Two-way humidity control packs, keeping the medical flower fresh, keeping your guitar cases fresh. We got a guitar theme here today, rock and roll theme, and Lance Lambert joins us. How you doing, Lance?
I'm doing great, and don't tell me you don't have an alarm clock in that space that lets you know when 420 hits every day. Come on.
Hang on. Ding, ding, ding. Where is it? Where is it? It sounds like this. It's a weird one. we get chubs when it comes. We get chubs.
I can always do a custom voiceover for it if you need.
Hey, man, nice to talk to you. I got a great comedian in studio with us today named Casey Corbin. And I almost forgot your last name for a second. I know it 100 times. And what's going on? So what's going on with the Boveda team, Lance?
Man, just keeping busy as always. Lots of stuff happening, especially to our friends in the North. Obviously, congratulations. You guys are doing the final countdown to legalization, which is less than a month away as of yesterday. So all eyes are on Canada, both in North America and internationally, as you guys become the first G7 country to legalize adult use cannabis consumption. So props to the Canadians.
Yeah, G. Yeah, what's up, guys? What's up? Yeah, it's definitely very, it's still, we've been so heavily involved in talking about it forever. And, I don't know, like, I always feel like I'm living in a dream world in a way when you think about it, just because, Casey, we're from the generation where, like, it was the biggest stigma ever. Like, the first time you bought weed, you were so careful, and if you made sure your parents never found out and all this stuff. We're just talking about kids. When I say kids, I'm 18, a little bit older and stuff, who can now consume legally. It's like that. They'll never grow up knowing what we went through. And so when I say feel like I'm in a dream, it's wild that it's here. What are Americans saying about it? What do you say down there in Minneapolis? What are you guys thinking?
Well, even more so, for me, I'm based out of Southern California.
That's right.
That's kind of the anomaly here. It's crazy that, the DARE program, which I'm same generation as you guys, and we always reference the DARE program, which although Nancy Reagan was very much the face of that, technically the founder was Daryl Gates out of Los Angeles in 1983. So looking at how that just started not so long ago, I mean, we were kids, we were in elementary school, but being right, the epicenter where that is, it's interesting how a lot of that taboo and stigma that came with how bad cannabis was and being classified with other Schedule I, narcotics and barbiturates. We're trying to shake that stigma. We're trying to help people understand. I'm a huge, as you know, Todd, I'm a huge medicinal advocate. But even from the adult use or recreational standpoint, it's still far healthier than alcohol and other things that people partake in. So, but we're trying to shake the stigma down here, one conversation at a time.
Yeah, I guess, Casey, would you presume that in Canada we've sort of now shaken that stigma a little bit more than probably they have in the States? What do you think?
I would think so. Just basically recently reading in the articles in the newspapers saying that even though when we legalized the 17th and we've changed our laws, America is not changing their laws. The border will remain the same. It will, if they ask us, have you ever smoked marijuana? And we say yes, they will turn us away. If they find out you have stocks in marijuana, medicinal marijuana up here, they will turn you away. They've already said this because they look at it, you contributing to something that's illegal. And, that's the Americans' attitude and the DEA and everything. And my attitude, being a pot smoker, is cool.
I do feel bad for you guys. That's you touch on something quite important there, and it's something that just came out in the news within the past week. And, you guys are Commonwealth. We're obviously a little different, but we still have excessive government down here. And it's specifically ICE and the Border Patrol that released a statement that said if you admit to consuming cannabis, being an investor in cannabis, or even working in the industry like myself, that if you are Canadian coming to the States, that you'll have a lifetime ban. And that's something that we're just so baffled here in the States. We're like, yes, it's legal at a state level. Yes, it's still illegal at a federal level. But why would you ban someone from a perfectly legal country from entering our country if they're associated with it? That tells you that we're dealing with some bigger issues from a political standpoint in the States right now.
And not to necessarily, completely dispute, both you, Lance, and Casey, but I did do a deeper dive into that article and stuff, and really what the premise was, because I don't want to fearmonger Canadians going over to America. No. It's just like, it's funny, I went to New York last Friday, so I had I must have had 15 texts of people going like, you got to be careful if you go. Like, this report just came out. I'm like, well, A, if you believed in it, don't fucking text me so they can go through my phone and see all this stuff. But B, I did the deeper dive based on the fact that I was traveling that night with my wife. And really what it said was, if you're caught with marijuana, or if there's like a residue of marijuana, like a dog sniffing dog. So if you go to the cottage this weekend and it's, or say October 20th, whatever the weekend is after it's legalized, and you head up to a cottage here in Toronto, outside of Toronto, and you have a bunch of marijuana in the bag. That's the bag you're not going to want to go and travel to the United States with. Because if a dog-sniffing dog happens to smell that bag, even if you have zero marijuana in there, but there's some residue, they might then say to you, oh, are you a consumer? So the alarm needs to go off first. They're not just going to randomly ask people about that stuff. And that's the impression I got from it. And to be honest, Lance, and I was thinking about this also, that would be terrible for business. Why would American custom guards want to start questioning, making it a part of the, I get they're going to ask you, to take your hat off. They're going to ask you where you're staying in the States. But if they start making that a mandatory question, how many, I don't know, I'm going to guess here. I'm just throwing out conjectural numbers, Casey. Once it's legal, probably 80% of people over the age of legal age will probably try this stuff or be a part of it or invest in it.
I would say so, for sure. Yeah.
Gotta be.
Why would you not?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it is unfortunate because on the flip side, from the inside, I do have a few friends that are Canadian-based companies that are doing business in the States. They come here quite often. You guys have had quite a few in recent months, but we have a lot of conventions and expos and such, and a few of them did get banned, and they're fighting it right now.
They did, eh?
These are straight-laced guys that don't even consume. They just happen to manufacture hardware that's utilized in the industry, and so it's again, I don't want to scare. I think the average individual that's crossing over, to the 48 contiguous, I think is okay, but it is a little bit of a bummer. I just, we'll get in a better place. We'll definitely get in a better place with it.
So, Lance, you're in California. We know Nevada, just next to you there. You guys are all legal now, and other states as well. But what is there? Is there a new common theme that is going around in terms of the conversations that people are having where, Canada's doing this? Will we on a federal level do this? Or people, is the theme that people think that it's actually something that could happen?
Yeah, they do feel it could happen. They just don't feel that it could happen under the current circumstance as it pertains to our president and his committees. So that's the one thing we see as a handicap. But it's the same thing over in England, which it did take an about face there, talking to friends that said, with current parliament, we just don't see this happening. But yet they are starting to move it forward and have at least moved forward to conversations around medical legalization. So I think there's still the plausibility, and those of us, again, being in the industry for years, the train's already left the station, is the way we put it. You might be able to slow it down, but there's no backing it up. It's come too far. Wall Street's on board with it. Big Pharma's looking into it. Big Alcohol is looking into it. I think you've probably read some of the stories, Todd. Even Coca-Cola is starting to have conversations on investing in Aurora. You already have the Miller Coors Group. You already have AB Anheuser-Busch getting into it. It's just Celestial Brands that owns Svedka and Corona. Those guys just dumped millions of dollars into a Canadian LP. So the mainstream and the money goes, and it seems that wherever the money goes, the energy flows. So I think and it's become what we call a nonpartisan issue in the States. So no longer is it, the Dems are for it, but the Republicans are against it. It's like, no, anyone that likes money and prosperity and believes in capitalism is kind of coming around to cannabis. Whether they believe in the attributes of the plant or not, they still see the gross potential around it, the green rush, for lack of a better played out term. So.
Yeah, I mean the big money is still just starting to pour in, really, and I saw that Coke and Aurora potential. Even though Coke sort of released a statement after that they wouldn't do it quite yet, and that they were looking at the CBD side of things.
Oh, the people who used to have the Coke in the Coke? Now they're all against it? Come on. They're like, this is Coca-Cola Super Classic. We got drugs back in the drink.
Sure, you thought the caffeine was addictive in the 40s, right?
Yeah.
That's CBD is a good topic, because that's where a lot of my conversations, and again, I'm traveling both domestic and around the world on a regular basis. The conversations always seem to get started just getting my haircut yesterday. My hairstylist was like, yeah, we need to talk more about CBD because I saw this CBD at a local grocery store. Is that the same as what you're talking about? So a lot of the education and understanding is becoming CBD. So while everyone always talks about THC and how that's the one, it's obviously the major psychoactive component, I think CBD is going to be the hero as far as cannabinoids and cannabis, because that is one that is obviously natural. We all have endocannabinoid systems. It's very nominal psychoactive. It's all about more of a body relaxation than a mind. And a lot of people are attracted to that. They're trying to step away from opioids and even your typical over-the-counter, Advil, Tylenol, ibuprofen, those kind of things. So they're looking at something more conventional and less extreme Western medicine for their ailments. And I think CBD is going to be the big winner to move things forward, at least in the States, mainstream.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That maybe that's like once they have a little more education. When I say they, Republicans, but I mean they're gonna maybe go like this. It's not because I mean listen. And the truth is this: I can understand why people might be afraid of that psychoactive, reaction that people have, the mind-altering part of it. I can understand why that would be an old-school thought that could be harmful or strange or peculiar or odd, and all the safety that has to go into in driving and everything. But, the CBD stuff, yeah, not that you should ever drive even with the CBDs, but that it really is. It's like taking, and I do it for anxiety, I do it for pain management, and I'm proud to say that, whether I can or can't say this, it works for me. I'm not necessarily saying people should go and do it, but it definitely, as a medical patient, it works for me. And I think that's a great lesson. And even me, when I first did it, I thought maybe, am I going to get super high from this? Am I going to get all wrecked? And I thought, is there going to be a placebo effect to this or anything? Like, am I going to pretend I'm high or something? And the next thing you know, I was just like super chilled.
Yeah.
Just super chilled. Yeah. So just that was
relaxed, and that's it. Yeah. And I think it's, even talking to, you've had these conversations too. I've talked to my mom. I don't know, the whole cannabis, the marijuana thing, and never worked for me. It had me kind of getting loopy. And I'm like, Mom, that's like going down, like I used to go down to Tijuana in Mexico for spring break. I'm like, it'd be like me going down to Tijuana and getting just obliterated off of tequila and saying, I'm never drinking alcohol again. There's some things that people do and don't like. Some people prefer beer or wine over spirits. It's the same thing with cannabis. There's a certain strain for everyone. And again, that goes back to, if you're looking for more of the body relaxation and less of the heady that the tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, provides, it's there. It's just, it all comes back to education. And I think that's the big leading conversation. Again, everywhere in the world, it's really just educating the masses.
If someone were to, Lance joins us from bovedainc.com, Boveda, Boveda Inc. And if you were like, I don't know, a stupid question in a way because it's pure hypothetical, but if you were a betting man, would you bet that within the next 5 years you guys over in America will have a similar sort of rollout like we're having now in Canada?
So part of me wants to say yes, but my background studying law says that it'd be less likely only because of due process in this country. So if it isn't on the Hill right now, it's not going to happen probably in the next 5 years. Usually it really has to get enough motivation in D.C., and then you see something coming in fruition within 7 to 10 years. But having said that, let's look at New Jersey as an example. While it's a smaller eastern state, it's still very much a relevant state, and it happens to have this big neighbor called New York, which is one of the highest populous states next to California, only in the country. So with Chris Christie exiting, who was hardcore anti-cannabis on all levels, he did not want any education from even the smartest scientists, doctors, and chemists. As soon as he exited stage left, that was very much the position that the new governor came in on, saying, hey, whoa, this stuff does make sense. We have enough proof. We have enough evidence. And so it's something we're going to move forward with. So they actually legalized without getting any vote from the end user, from the actual voter. I mean, that was something that was passed by the state. and they're moving forward with. So I think that there's a change in politics to where something could be possibly expedited because it's gotten so far already. I mean, you talked about it. I wouldn't expect you guys to memorize, but just so you know, there's 9 states plus D.C. that have adult use legalized. There's 40 states in the U.S. that have legalized cannabis on some level or another. Now, it might be as nominal as Texas, that only legalized CBD for patients suffering, grand mal seizures, epileptic seizures, all the way to the extreme of California that now has both adult and medical legalization. But the fact is that we're talking about 4/5 of the country already has legalized cannabis. So it would be a lot easier to flip that switch than, say, lifting prohibition on alcohol was back in the day. So I think it's plausible it could happen sooner than later. I do know Canada is going to be the international leader at least for the next 3 to 5 years. You guys just have so much momentum. You're in so many places. I talked to LPs that have plants on the ground in Portugal, in Australia, in South America, over in Europe, talking to Germany, talking to UK. So Canada is really just taking the ball and running with it. And again, I think that's one thing Trudeau was smart on coming into office with. He knew that was a hot button, not just for revenue, but for appeasing the masses, if you will, which is great. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's some very good information you provided us with, Lance. I didn't realize sort of on one level or another that 40 states have sort of accepted that's very interesting to me. And I think what's really interesting is it's kind of cool. I think as Canadians, right? Who knew that in the last couple of years, like first we'd get Drake, and now we're getting the legalization of marijuana again on the map. You know, Lance, we always
about the Bieber.
Well, the Bieber, yeah. The Bieber who I just heard got his American citizenship the other day or something.
He got his, really?
We'll give you something in return for that one.
I can't believe he passed the test, that quiz.
Yeah, no kidding.
Anyone can get it now.
The egging houses.
He didn't know what the Sistine Chapel was, and this guy passed a test filled with Americana questions.
It's not a movie from the early 80s starring Molly Ringwald. That's all I have. That's a different 16.
Well, Lance, we love catch up. Let's do this more, man. I like this. And I'm glad that obviously we're doing so much together, bovedainc.com, two-way humidity control packs. And man, that must be good for business with all this happening. So, and hopefully Canada's a big part of that.
Oh, very much so. We love Canada, and we're going to continue to work that much further with Canada, not just with the people up there, but the government and everyone. It's really, you guys have a good thing going on. So
beautiful. And you're at what are you at? Slow Loco? Is that where you at?
Yeah, that's my personal handle. So I'm kind of always busy running around, so not much to follow there, but always try to plug in stuff on Boveda Cannabis. We have plenty of events coming up. I'm actually, speaking of which, going to be guest speaking at Utah Can, which is an event in, of all places, Sandy, Utah. So Utah is moving forward with medical. I'm having great conversations around it, but we'll also be at the Lemon Haze event up in Tacoma next month, and at CWCBE event in Los Angeles and in Boston. So if you're making any of those events, whether you're on the business or consumer side, stop by, say hi, get some samples, and learn what it's all about. We're here to keep weed fresh.
Thanks, Lance. You're an absolute beauty, as we say here in Canada. We look forward to hopefully getting you back in studio when you're down in Toronto again, too.
Hey, sooner than later, I promise. Cheers. Thanks for everything.
Okay, man. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
The Todd Shapiro Show.
You are the greatest hero in American history.
SiriusXM Canada Laughs Ch.168.